I used to think you couldn't get a decent graphics card for under $100, but I decided to dig into Newegg's lowest rated options to see which ones are actually worth buying, and which ones I'd avoid completely. I'll show you the outdated budget GPUs, the questionable deals, and give you my honest take so you don't waste your money. Stick with me here on Electronics for Less, where I help you game smarter without overspending. When I first got my hands on the Gigabyte GeForce GT 710 2GB DDR3, I knew I wasn't expecting a powerhouse, but I wanted to see what a true budget GPU could actually do. Right out of the box, it's a low-profile card, which means it's perfect for small form factor builds or older PCs that don't have a lot of space. Installation was super straightforward. I just slid it into a PCI Express 2.0 slot, secured it, and I was ready to go. Now, in terms of performance, I won't lie. It's an entry-level card. I tested it on light esports titles like CS, Go, and League of Legends at 720p and 1080p, and it handled low settings fairly well. Don't expect to run modern AAA games smoothly. You're looking at something that's meant to get your system running with basic graphical acceleration or very light gaming. It has 2 GB of DDR3 memory, which is enough for these lightweight titles, but it does start to struggle if you push it with high-res textures or multiple monitors. One thing I really appreciated is how quiet it is. There's no loud fan noise, and it barely heats up during use, which is a big plus if you're building a PC in a small space. It also has DVI, HDMI, and VGA outputs, so it's compatible with a wide range of monitors, even older ones. For me, this card is all about function over performance. It gets the job done for everyday tasks, light gaming, or upgrading an older PC without breaking the bank. Honestly, if you're on a tight budget and just want to squeeze a little bit of gaming or graphical power out of an older system, the GT 710 2GB is a safe bet. It's not going to win awards, but it's dependable, low cost, and super easy to install. When I tested the MSI GeForce GT 710 2GB DDR3 low profile, I immediately noticed how compact it is. Like the Gigabyte version, this card is designed for small cases or older PCs, so if you've got limited space, it fits perfectly without any modifications. Installation was a breeze. I just popped it into a PCI Express 2.0 slot and connected my monitor via HDMI. In terms of performance, I treated this as a card for very basic gaming and general GPU tasks. I tried it on League of Legends and Dota 2 at 720p, and it ran smoothly on low settings. It can even handle casual 1080p, but don't expect to push high graphics. Modern AAA games just aren't realistic here. With 2 GB of DDR3 memory, it's enough for lightweight graphics acceleration, video playback, or multi-monitor setups for productivity. But it starts showing its limits once you ask for more. One thing I appreciated is how cool and quiet it stays. Even after hours of light gaming or YouTube 1080p playback, the fan barely made any noise and the card didn't heat up noticeably. The outputs are solid too, DVI, HDMI, and VGA, so you can connect older or newer monitors without hassle. For me, the MSI GT 710 2GB low profile is all about practicality. It's not meant to be a gaming beast, but it's perfect if you need an inexpensive upgrade to get GPU acceleration, run older games, or revive an old PC. At under $100, it's a solid option for anyone on a tight budget who just wants things to work. When I first got the Asus GeForce GT 1032 GB GDDR5, I immediately noticed it felt like a step up from the GT 710 cards I tested before. It's still compact and easy to install in a small case, but the real difference is in performance. I slid it into my PCI Express slot, hooked up my monitor via HDMI, and fired up some games to see what it could handle. I started with older or lighter titles like CS, Go, Rocket League, and Fortnite at 720p and 1080p. Right away, I could tell this card is more capable than the GT 710. I was able to run medium settings in some games, which is something I couldn't even attempt on the 710. Even though it has only 2 GB of GDDR5 memory, the faster memory compared to DDR3 makes a noticeable difference in smoothness and frame rates. Another thing I liked is how cool and quiet it stays under load. I tested it for a couple of hours and it never got hot or noisy, which is great if you're building a compact or budget PC. It also comes with HDMI and DVI outputs, so it's versatile for connecting to modern or older monitors. Honestly, if you're looking for a budget graphics card under $100 that can actually let you play some modern esports or older AAA games at playable settings, the Asus GT 1032GB GDDR5 is one of the best options I found. It's a solid middle ground between the ultra-budget GT 710 cards and higher-end options, giving you performance without breaking the bank. When I got the used Gigabyte GT 1032GB GDDR5, I was curious to see if buying a refurbished card under $100 would actually be worth it. Right away, I noticed it looked almost brand new. There were no scratches or dust, and the fan felt solid and smooth. Installation was simple, just like any other PCI Express card, and I appreciated that it was still a low-profile design, so it fit easily into my small test PC. Performance-wise, it impressed me for the price. I tested it on games like CS, Go, Fortnite, and League of Legends at 1080p on medium settings, and it ran surprisingly well. Being a GDDR5 model, it felt snappier than the DDR3 GT 710 cards, and frame rates were stable for casual or esports gaming. It's not going to handle heavy AAA titles, but for someone on a tight budget who still wants playable performance in lighter games, this card is a solid choice. One thing I liked about this used card is that it stayed cool and quiet even after extended sessions. I also liked the HDMI and DVI outputs, which made connecting to either modern or older monitors hassle-free. Buying used can feel risky, but this particular GT 1030 gave me confidence that you can get a good deal under $100 without sacrificing too much performance. For me, it's one of the best options for budget gamers who want more than the basic entry-level cards. When I got the used Asus GT7 32GB GDDR5, I was curious how it would compare to the GT710 and GT1030 cards I'd already tested. Right out of the box, it looked almost like new, and being a low-profile card, it fit perfectly into my small test PC without any issues. Installation was simple, just slot it into PCI Express 2.0, and I was ready to go. Performance-wise, it's definitely a step above the GT710, but it still sits on the budget side. I tested it with older or light games like League of Legends, CS, Go, and Dota 2 at 1080p on low to medium settings, and it ran smoothly. Frame rates were playable, though I wouldn't try any modern AAA games on this card. The 2GB GDDR5 memory helps with speed and responsiveness compared to DDR3, so even on light multitasking or video playback, it feels snappy. I really appreciated how quiet and cool it stayed under load. Even after a few hours of testing, the fan noise was minimal and there were no heat issues. The card also comes with HDMI, DVI, and VGA outputs, making it easy to connect to both older and newer monitors. For me, the Asus GT7 32GB GDDR5 is a solid pick if you're looking for a budget upgrade. It's not going to turn your old PC into a gaming powerhouse, but for older games or light gaming, it's dependable, affordable, and easy to install. Buying it used under $100 made it an even better value. When I got my hands on the used EVGA GTX 750 T2GB GDDR5, I was genuinely excited, because this card is a step up from all the GT series options I tested before. It's still compact enough to fit in most mid and small size cases, and installation was straightforward. I just slotted it into PCI Express 3.0, secured it, and connected my monitor via HDMI. Performance immediately impressed me. I tested it on CS, Go, Fortnite, and Rocket League at 1080p, and I could actually run medium settings smoothly. Unlike the GT710 or GT730, this card can handle some older AAA games at low to medium settings, making it much more versatile for budget gaming. The 2GB GDDR5 memory also keeps things responsive, so even when I pushed graphics a little higher, frame rates remained fairly stable. I also liked how quiet the card stayed. Even under longer gaming sessions, it didn't heat up noticeably and the fan wasn't loud. The card comes with both DVI and HDMI outputs, so connecting to modern monitors was no problem at all. For me, the EVGA GTX 750T was the first card in this budget list that felt like it could genuinely deliver a decent gaming experience under $100. especially if you buy it used or refurbished. If you want to play esports or older AAA titles at playable settings without spending a fortune, this card is a solid pick. When I got the Sangri VGA GT 1030 low profile 2GB, I was curious to see how it stacked up against the Asus and Gigabyte GT 1030s I tested earlier. Right away, I noticed it's very compact and low profile, which makes it perfect for small cases or budget builds. Installing it was simple. I just slotted it into a PCI Express 3.0 slot, secured it, and connected my monitor via HDMI. Performance-wise, it handled light gaming really well. I tested games like CS, Go, League of Legends, and Rocket League at 1080p, and I could comfortably run low to medium settings with smooth frame rates. The 2GB of GDDR5 memory definitely gives it an edge over DDR3 cards, so even with light multitasking or video playback, the system felt responsive. One thing I appreciated is that it stayed cool and quiet even after extended play sessions. There's almost no noticeable fan noise, which is great if you're working in a small or quiet space. It also comes with HDMI and DVI outputs, so it's easy to hook up to both modern and older monitors. For me, the Sangri VGA GT 1032GB low profile is a solid budget pick. It's not going to run heavy AAA games, but for older titles, esports, or general GPU acceleration, it's reliable, affordable, and easy to install, especially if you're trying to game on a tight budget under $100. When I tested the Asus GT 732GB DDR3 low profile, I already knew I had to manage my expectations. Since this version uses DDR3 memory instead of GDDR5, I expected it to be a bit slower, and that's exactly what I experienced. Installation was quick and easy though. It's a slim, low-profile card, so it slid right into my small form-factor PC without any clearance issues. Once I started testing games, I kept things realistic. I tried League of Legends, Dota 2, and CS. Go at 720p and 1080p on low settings. At 720p, performance was smooth and playable. At 1080p low, it was still manageable in lighter esports titles, but I could definitely feel the limits of the 2GB DDR3 memory. Compared to the GDDR5 version of the GT 730, this one is noticeably less responsive and delivers lower frame rates. Where this card really shines for me is in basic tasks. It handles 1080p video playback smoothly, supports multiple monitors, and works great as a simple display upgrade for an older PC that doesn't have integrated graphics. It runs cool, stays quiet, and doesn't require any external power connectors, which makes it beginner-friendly. For gaming, I'd say the Asus GT 730 DDR3 is strictly entry-level. If you're only playing older or very light games and you're on a tight budget under $100, it can get the job done. But if you have the option, I'd personally choose the GDDR5 version instead for noticeably better performance. When I tested the Maxsun GeForce GT 710 2GB low profile, I already had a good idea of what to expect since I tried other GT 710 models before. Physically, it's very compact and lightweight, making it ideal for small office PCs or slim gaming builds. Installation was quick and simple. I just slotted it into a PCIe slot, secured it, and connected my monitor. No external power connectors, no complications. In terms of performance, I kept my expectations realistic. I tested light titles like League of Legends and CS. Go at 720p on low settings. It handled those games decently. But once I tried pushing to 1080p or increasing settings, performance dropped noticeably. With 2GB of DDR3 memory, this card is clearly built for basic graphical tasks rather than serious gaming. Where I think this card makes more sense is for everyday use. It supports DirectX 12 and OpenGL 4.5, so it works fine for media playback, web browsing, light editing, and multi-monitor setups. It runs cool and quiet, which I appreciated during longer sessions. If you're upgrading an older PC that doesn't have integrated graphics, or you just need a simple display output solution under $100, it does the job. For gaming though, I'd be honest, this is strictly entry-level. It's okay for very light esports titles at low settings, but if your goal is smoother 1080p gaming, I'd personally look at something like a GT 1030 or GTX 750T instead. Finally, I took a look at the Power Color Radeon HD 46 7500 12MB, and I have to be honest, this one really feels like a blast from the past. The moment I installed it, I knew I was dealing with much older hardware. It uses just 512 megabytes of memory, which by today's standards is extremely limited. Installation was still simple since it fits into a standard PCI Express slot, and it doesn't require an external power connector, which makes it easy for older systems. When I started testing games, I had to dial everything way down. I tried older titles like Counter-Strike 1.6 and GTA San Andreas, and at 720p on low settings, it was playable. But anything more modern than that was simply too much for it. With only 512 megabytes of VRAM, textures and performance become a major limitation very quickly. Where I see this card making sense is in extremely old PC builds or very specific legacy setups. It can handle basic display output, light video playback, and extremely old games, but that's about it. Compared to the GT 1030 or even the GTX 750T, it's in a completely different performance tier, and not in a good way. For me, the Radeon HD 4670 is more of a nostalgia or emergency replacement card rather than a serious gaming option. If it's under $100, I'd honestly recommend stretching your budget slightly for something newer and more capable. As a last card on this list, it really shows how important it is to check specs and release dates before buying a cheap graphics card. After testing all of these graphics cards under $100, I've learned one big thing. Cheap doesn't always mean good, and lowest rated doesn't always mean useless. Some of these GPUs can handle light esports and older titles just fine, while others are better suited for basic display upgrades rather than real gaming. If you're shopping on a tight budget, I'd personally aim for something like the GT 1030 GDR5 or a used GTX 750T for the best value. If this breakdown helped you avoid a bad buy, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and stick around. This is Electronics for Less, and I'll keep helping you game smarter without overspending.